Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I am your host, Dougie Almeida, coming to you live from Simpsonville, South Carolina, where I'm blending in every day. Great show for you today. Regular on the show will be joining us, and a brand new person that's never been on our show, and one of Greenville Comedy's rising stars. This gentleman actually took him to open me a couple different times. Very funny. So we got a great show. Without further ado, let me introduce back on the show, Andy Gunnin, and first time, Chris Wilson. What's up, fellas?
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on?
Well, first of all, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Andy's has been on the show, but to our viewers and listeners, Chris is a funny fella here in Greenville. This is a newer comedy scene. A lot of newer comics are here. And here's a fellow that can definitely get some laughs and I think has a big, bright future.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we all remember Andy from the Fat Thor podcast. And, of course, right. Comedy from Atlanta area. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
This will be fun.
Now, absolutely. It's been crazy, two things. It's always nuts. Like as a comic, we write, we try to get stage time, it's just amazing how many things people think we just go up on stage and tell jokes and shit. They don't realize that there's so much more to it. Now, Andy, you've been doing this for a little while longer than I think than Chris. Chris, how long have you been doing this now?
I want to say about 1 year and 8 months.
Yeah. And that's amazing where he's at. And where are you at, Andy, on the timeline?
Just over 3 years.
All right. And, of course, I'm in my 16th, 17th year. So that means I should be a lot funnier than I am. But nevertheless, you know what I mean? It's amazing. So, a year into it, Chris, let me ask you,
Sure.
what do you think some of the hardest things about this? What is it that when you wake up and go, fuck, this comedy thing, this is the hardest thing for me to deal with?
Yeah. When I first started, when I did it the first time, like 11 years ago, I was pestered. Everybody's like, my cousin's like, hey, come out to this open mic and do this. And I put it off for a couple years. And I said, if I do it, will you leave me alone? She said, yeah. And I go and I did it. I burned the light, which if nobody knows, that means when you go over your time, I did like 7 minutes because I'm staring at the ground. I've got like 8 Grand Marniers running through me, and I've only suited for 2. And, and then I got done, and then I'm like, never again. And I disappeared, and I decided to come back because I have a bad stage phobia. Not anymore. Like now it's gone. I used to be like that guy that would just fake a heart attack in school because I don't want to read the paper in front of everybody. And they go, Chris, I don't know how you do that. How do you get up there? And I'm like, getting up there is easy. It's the being funny part that's hard,
Yeah.
And writing jokes is like for the last 2 months, I think I might have written 2 jokes. It just, the valve is just turned off. And I'm just like, and it gets rough. There's a lot to it. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I picked up a pen regularly since I graduated high school. And now I'm like trying to write all these things, and you have to write jokes and like hope to God nobody on the whole planet has already thought of this. And that is almost impossible. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's some of it.
That is very true.
Andy?
It's very true. For me, it's now that I'm doing it pretty much full time now. I pretty much walked away from the building industry after 2020. My wife just says, do this permanently. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea. But yeah, it is hard, but it's like, in sales, when I used to sell building material, it's every day you get up, the score is 0, and you just try to find something somewhere. And I think the difficult thing for me right now is I'm at a spot where I'm featuring. all over the country with Bar Comedy USA and a few other folks. And it's hard to find feature work for me right now because a lot of clubs are requiring, headliners to bring their own feature, or, they don't supply the feature. So that gap to be able to jump in there and get more work is very hard now, because you get a lot of work, you start getting a lot of open mics, and you start hosting everywhere, and you're getting a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden you start working in that feature spot, and you're starting, and everybody goes, yeah, we're bringing our own feature, and there's no feature spots. So it's like, dang, you get all the way to here and then go bam right against the wall.
Yeah, because it's a great point, because when you are the feature or the opening act for the headliner, especially when COVID came and the shutdowns and the limited capacity and the limited seats being sold, a lot of comedy clubs are like, because comedy's so big now, a lot of comedy clubs, why am I going to bring a feature in from another place, give them a hotel and everything, where I could probably just find a local comic, especially if it's a good comedy scene like in Atlanta or Phil, in these great scenes, they have a lot of locals that they could probably use, or you can find a couple people just to do 10, 15 minutes each. And, in some cases, don't even pay them. A lot of times comics, they're at that stage, won't even care. Like, oh, shit, I get to do 10, 15 minutes. So, yeah, it's a hard, there's limited spots for a feature, in other words. It's like, for me, it's the same challenge, obviously. That's why it's great being here in Greenville, because, I'm taking advantage of that aspect. They don't want to bring in features from out of town. Yeah, why don't they just use, it's basically a handful of us here in the area that can feature, so they just rotate us in when they need it. Hey, I live 15 minutes from the club. I don't need a hotel. So definitely a good point. Definitely a good point.
And even if you offer like, hey man, just give me a chance, I'll pay my own way. They're like, I feel more comfortable using somebody here, or let the, or let the headliner bring their own.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Now, speaking of comedy, by the way, did you guys catch Chris Rock's new comedy special?
Yes, I did.
I did not. I have not. Yeah. I'm such a bad TV watcher.
Well, it just came out Saturday night, so you're not too far.
Yeah, I'm not too far behind. Like, everybody wants to watch it for the obvious reason, and I'm like, okay, I'd like to see that, but like, I don't know, I'm weird. Like, since I started doing comedy, it's kind of hard to watch it, if that makes any sense. Because like, I watched, for example, Eric Myers, I believe, at I want to say the Laugh Factory, watched 45 minutes on YouTube, and it was 45 minutes of just complete gold. And I'm like, oh, geez, I need to quit comedy today. So I'm a little weary about it, but I think I've heard good things.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned Eric Myers, who I've known because being a Florida comic. Don't ever compare yourself to that guy. He was just one in a million.
It's unreal.
Just
like
pure energy.
He went from 0 to 11 and stayed there, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's entertaining. And he was one of the first comics to make me laugh on a comedy special, and I laughed so much, I'm just like, yeah, I can't do. I wanted to throw my notebook in the trash.
Yeah, so and it's true. The greatest thing I always loved about Eric Myers was, I always love a comic that if somebody was to take his material and try to do it themselves, it wouldn't even work. Because
his
mannerisms
are great.
It was just so true to who the hell he was. Just such a character, and that's the kind of thing. And you're right. I don't like to watch comedy and certain things because I don't want to like subconsciously come up with something and then a month later go, oh, I got an idea for a joke, and then not even realize. That's always been a concern of mine. But yeah, at the same time, you don't want to just, I want to watch this. I caught a few of the clips of it. I am a staunch hater of Will Smith and Jadda Pinkett Smith at this point. I've made it known that I will never spend $1 to watch that fucking asshole or his piece of shit wife ever again. Or any of them. I won't, I made that post on Instagram and somebody called me racist and all this shit. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, he smacked a black guy who I love, Chris Rock, as a comic, who I'm in a brotherhood with. And, so I don't, and I just don't condone any violence. And the big part is as a tough guy, like, I've like, look, I've never been 6 foot. I've been in my, I'm 5'8", 5'9". I'm starting to shrink. That's the age I'm at now, where I'm actually losing height. But I've been in martial arts since I'm 4 years old. So, it was always my duty, to stand up for the little guy under situations. And I would just abhor these big tough guys who would always, pick on the smaller guy on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Like they knew they could mouth off, but they wouldn't mouth off to another big, but here it was a great example. Will Smith would not have done that, right? He would have not have done that to a comic that he would worried I would have fucking knocked him back out.
Right. Right.
I agree.
Well, Chris Rock made a good point. He'd been trained to box. He'd been trained in all these movies to fight and all this stuff. And he's like, I've not been trained to do anything. But, realistically, I don't think Will would have done anything if he hadn't been pushed. I think he would have just sat there and let it ride if she had not said something, whatever she said, or looked at him that look. And then he realized he had better do something. But realistically,
he was on the spot on TV,
right,
and he just panicked.
Right. Yeah, I watched a clip from Damon Wayans because there was an article about how, Chris Rock just spent a little bit of time on that. But Damon Wayans did a whole special about Jadda. And he goes like, like she put voodoo, like everybody just thought she rolled her eyes, but she was doing voodoo, like, and of course, fucking Will Smith was laughing at the joke at first, and then he,
that's true,
and and then that woman. So that's why a lot of people don't like her, because I mean, and in a sense, you got to feel bad for Will Smith too, because here's a guy who got, like I think it was in the special, like they're on, like, first of all, who talks about getting cheated on, and then who goes on fucking. Goes on public display to be interviewed by the bitch that cheated on you. Exactly. I mean, fucking, like, what a putz. Like how good can her pussy be? How good could that pussy be? Where you know what I mean? I mean, Jesus.
It's a meltdown on television.
He's been beat down and put in such a bad spot, and she's just, like you said, she's putting some voodoo. She controls him, and she just has totally wrecked him down to something he never was.
Yeah, Chris, have you ever had pussy so good that it made you just leave your disciplines and just make you do stupid things?
Yeah, and it worked out about the same. I'm probably banned from the Academy Awards too. I can't even watch Fresh Prince anymore. Not even Uncle Phil can make it happen. And my grandma called me. God bless her. My Mima called me, and she goes, because she's like, "Hey, you're a comedian. Are you on TV?" I said, "No, Mima, I'm not." And she goes, "Well, don't let anybody hit you." And I'm like, well, I've got cerebral palsy, so they'll think they already got me. It'll be fine. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
But that was the whole thing. Everybody was all nervous that this is just going to give the gateway to any drunk Yahoo to come up and smack us there for the last year. Everybody had to make a statement. It's like, don't even try it.
Well, what it did do is have a bunch of opening acts and hosts use that joke. You don't come up here and smack me. I'll beat your ass. Or, it was a good way, to kind of, and it got the laughs. It should be I think that's gone. Can't really do that anymore, but it had its moment, right?
Yeah, it did.
It did have its moment. And, I thought it was, what I thought was amazing was that Chris Rock, I watched a clip where he fucked up a joke. And, he fucked up a joke. He messed up the punchline because he said, I guess Concussion was a movie that fucking Will Smith had done or something. He fucked up the punchline. I'm just really surprised that you would have that on your special. Like I would cut that shit out. Like, how could you fuck up a joke and leave it on your special?
Well, I agree with that to a point. No, I've never really seen that because, they normally tape them twice and then they just cut out the bad and splice in whatever was different or messed up. But I give him credit for letting it fly. That got my attention right off the bat. I was like, wow, he let that go. You know what? That's, I don't know if it speaks volumes or if it just says, hey, he's like, I'm not perfect, because realistically, he wasn't doing a lot of stand up until Will smacked him. Then all of a sudden he hit the road hard to get this together, to do his special, to do this, I guess, response special is what you would call it.
Yeah.
So, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. I was just like, kudos for you for leaving it in.
Yeah. It's kind of like when a band's performing live and you hear the missed notes and shit like that. It's kind of part of it,
Right.
enjoyable. You know, all right. Well, you know, and when it comes to comedy, you know, like I said, congratulations to Chris Rock for handling that all extremely well.
Yeah.
Taking the high
100%.
road.
100% better than I would have.
Oh yeah, and listen, you know, people have asked me, what would you have done if he slapped you? Listen, I would have beat his ass, and you know what? I mean, I would have, because there's never been a time in my history where somebody struck me, and I'll lie to you. There was actually a time I was surrounded by several black guys in high school. And I was actually watching a fight between a white guy and a black guy. I was about to break, you know, I was just hanging out in the background. Some guy sucker punched me, and I'm like, well, I'm outnumbered, especially when I turned around and the three friends I had disappeared, and I was outnumbered like 20-1. I think that may be the only time I was actually struck without, you know, reciprocating. But no, and that's funny because I love visualizing shit. Like I picture me being up there going, anyway, next, and you know, I would have low kicked that bitch and just jumped on top of him and choked his ass out. Would have been a whole different Academy or whatever it was, Oscars, whatever it was. But you know, like I said, Will Smith to me is dead. I think he's ruined his life. I don't know if he'll listen. I personally think that I think this is a never come back from. I mean, it may take a long time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think Harvey Weinstein will come back quicker than Will Smith will come back. You'll see Harvey Weinstein producing a movie before. Well, so here's the thing: who the hell's going to hire Will Smith? You know, to be like, I don't think anybody, like you said, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that show that's on Peacock, the remake. Nobody's watching that fucking thing. You know what I mean? Nobody's watching. Anything that's associated with him, it's done. So, hey, speaking of things, let me ask you guys. This is big news, you know, and everything that's going on. And listen, when it comes to the LGBTQ community and the transgender community, I say, if you're an adult, do as you wish. I have nothing against anybody in that sector. My nephew is transitioned once she reached. I have a nephew who's gay. So listen, I am not like this old, oh fucking God. No, do whatever you want. You know, I'm not going to judge. Who am I to judge your life? But leave the fucking kids alone. You know, I started thinking of this analogy. Comedy sometimes is about breaking in analogies, you know, and somebody posted something when I, you know, got into this thing on social media. It's like, you know, what are you against story time with, you know, with drag shows? I'm like, I don't have any problem with a drag queen reading a story as long as the story isn't about how Bobby sucks dick. You know, I don't, you know, and those types of stories, you know, if they're reading a regular traditional story, I can care less. But it's almost like, it's not much different than when the tobacco companies or these, you know, these vaping companies used, you know, candy flavors to entice children. And if nobody on earth is not going to be, it's going to be oblivious to anybody that you're trying to entice children, because they're so, you know, because they are so impressionable. And, you know, if you get somebody with a fucking wig and glasses and all that kind of shit, you know, all you're doing is trying to entice the kid. You know, leave the fucking kids alone. You know what I mean?
Stop making kids political pawns and all that. I agree 100%. Don't make kids political pawns. But if you want to take them to story time with a cross-dresser, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that as long as, you know, if that's your decision and it doesn't turn into, and as long as it's not happening in the schools. And I think the couple of places that I saw, it was at a public library or a bookstore, and it was mostly people had the choice to take their kids. That's fine. That's your decision. That's your kid, you know, but I agree with you. You know, when you start using kids as political pawns and things like that and entice them to make decisions, maybe they would, you know, I don't have any issues with anybody on either side of the fence of anything until you start bringing kids and making them political issues or pawns or whatever.
Yeah, I think they should just let kids be kids. That's all. You know.
You know, I've made this argument before. If any parent that lets their kid make that type of irrevocable decision should also allow that child to have power of attorney on the finances of the family. And they should also be signed over health surrogacy, so that if the parents got into an accident, a 9-year-old can sign a DNR to get rid of their parents and collect the life insurance money. if they're so capable of making such drastic decisions. But no, and the funny thing is when you read these misleading articles all the time, it's like, enough of this bullshit. And here's the biggest problem of it. And this is my advice to the LGBTQ trans community. If you want to set yourself back decades from progress that you made for equality and all that, then keep fucking with the kids. And whether you're right or wrong, America's not going to tolerate it. You know what I mean? It's just not going to be tolerated. If you want to set yourself back, keep fucking pushing the kids to do shit and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's no difference, and it has nothing to do with you're transphobic. No, I would be, if my buddy told me he took his 8-year-old to a gentleman's club, I'd be like, what the fuck? What are you like? What are you crazy?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not going to, and if somebody tried to post something that, what's the difference between going to a drag show and having the kids watch the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders? Well, it's a big difference. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders are doing pom-poms and they're cheering for the team. They're not walking around with a strap-on cock and fucking tassels on fake titties. You know what I mean? And this kind of shit. You know what I mean? So, let's be honest. And listen, if somebody asked me this about Hooters, the parents are bringing their kids to Hooters. Well, listen, a pair of fucking shorts, dolphin shorts, is a bit different than a G-string, with balls hanging out. So, I don't know. The next question: Should parents? This has been a recent story too. That there's some laws being passed that if a child asks to be considered he, she, or transgender, or considered gay and stuff like that, and they open up to the school, should the school notify the parents?
That's here's the thing. I mean, if a kid wants to talk to his teachers like, hey, I'm gay or maybe gay, I mean, that's a conversation between them. I don't think, unless the teacher wants to make it a thing, that's between the teacher and decision and the parent. But I don't think they should have to legally go, hey, your kid told me this, so I have to tell you this. I mean, maybe the kid's just practicing telling that teacher to become comfortable talking to them to go tell their parents. But I don't think the schools should not get in between parents and their kids, realistically, and stuff like that. But if and I had a relationship, with certain teachers that were, I was close with, and sometimes I'd say some things to them I may not say to my parents, but they didn't go run tell them. Now, they'd go run tell them if I didn't do my homework or if it, anything that was life threatening or anything like that. That's one thing. I don't think they. That's between. I don't know where that came from, but that's just a decision, unfortunately, that just should be left alone. Because if
I think Andy's going to admit, Andy's going to finally admit that he banged one of his teachers in school.
No, I did not. No, I did not. My buddy did, and then married her after he graduated.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah. That never made the news, but this was back in the 90s before everything.
That must have been some awesome homework. I agree. Listen, first of all, I think if you I taught martial arts, right? And a lot of times the kids would go to the martial arts instructor before the parent because it's a different, that was a unique position we had where we can reach. You would use that relationship differential to kind of really tell the kids, like you could tell the kids to be disciplined, and you're not the father or the mother telling them it, because then don't tell me what to do. But the martial arts, the martial artist, the sensei would tell you to do something like, I'm going to listen to, instructor Doug,
right?
Yep.
Right. So but as a responsibility, if I'm a teacher and some kid comes to me and opens up and tells me, I'm like, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. Listen, I'm going to keep this between you and I, because that's a gentlemanly type thing. And but I am going to suggest that this should, now that you've told me, you really should speak to your parents and give them the opportunity. Don't keep this bottled up. They should know. And I think it's best if you make it out. And that, I think, the idea of hiding it from parents is the issue. The teachers think they have the high ground, and they're going to, look, we know better than the fucking parents. And that's where the issue becomes. Anything you'd like to add to that, Chris?
I just think that, I have some gay friends, and I know they had, they had a rough time coming out to their own parents, even some as grown adults. And that's the thing, I could see talking to it, like you said, to kind of get it out to somebody, but I don't think the teacher coming and just going, "Hey, I need to tell you about this. This kid may not be ready to do that," or something like that. And that's just, I think that's overstepping a big boundary because, like I said, I know grown people that still don't want to talk about these things with their parents, and even if their parents are aware of it. There's some things that a teacher just can't do. I mean, it maybe if they were like, "Hey, can you help me tell them maybe," but I think that's stepping way out of the teacher bounds.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's necessary for the parent where the teacher, or like Andy said, where they'd have to be forced to let them know. I don't think that any medical procedure should be done without the parent's knowledge. That's a different story. But when it comes to the kid's life, I think the teacher should then take that moment and basically say, "Look, thank you for sharing. I'll keep this between you and I, but my suggestion is you have to." And I have a close friend that recently told me something similar too. That their child, an adult, came out to them, and the kid's in the child's in their 30s, and and this person's very Christian and stuff like that, so they're having a hard time with it. And then that falls in the responsibility of the friend, where I'm trying to tell my friend, like, "Hey, it's there. I mean, what can you do? I know then it's our job to tell them, hey, you may have to get over this. It's our job to kind of console that parent now, to say, look, I mean, love them either way. They may be confused. And you got to help them. You don't want them to become a boundary between you over this. So I think ultimately it's always up to for everybody involved to make sure they handle it responsibly, right? To that point. All right. So here's the question. The big question came out now. There's more and more evidence and the belief that COVID did come out of a Wuhan lab, basically, that handles that. I mean, did anybody believe the fucking bat story? I mean,
no,
never. I wanted to.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot cooler. It would have been a lot cooler.
Yeah. Because it's like Spider-Man. A spider bites you, you get superpowers. The bat, whatever. And it's like, how did I get my cerebral palsy? Like, what bit me? So that's like why I'm more entertained with that theory. But
yeah. Chris caught cerebral palsy because he got licked by a fucking coyote. And all of a sudden he started walking
right
funny.
in the ass.
Is that where
he licked his ass while he was taking a shit in the woods?
Yeah. It was a weird time in the Denny's parking lot.
You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not a virologist, I'm not a doctor and anything, but when all this shit was going down, everything from that to like natural immunity, again, people like, oh, does it? Like, what the fuck? That's why a lot of this country doesn't trust the fucking government. And it's like, don't tell me that I need to get a fucking shot when I've had it twice. Don't tell me, it's ridiculous, but, it didn't come from a fucking bat,
Nope. And there, if you'll go look, Forbes and Newsweek came out and published, and there's several articles published that give the timeline of what all happened and what Fauci said in Fauci's emails that have finally come out, that he actually helped suppress and write the dictation to say it came from and got I can't remember the guy's name, but I can pull it up in the article, who's now head of the WHO, to basically curve it around to avoid the lab information to come out to say that it was a bat and an offspring of SARS, which was totally false. And now that's all out there.
Well, and Fauci was culpable. And, I think if anybody...
His name is on like 18 or 20 patents of the of the medical stuff and the drugs and the shot. Yeah. In the pharmaceutical companies. He was making money off of every shot that went out.
Yeah, and he didn't feel the need to disclose it. So,
right.
I'm just glad now. I'm just worried because China's getting so aggressive now. Like, oh, you keep fighting. They warned America this week that if we're on a path to confrontation if we don't straighten our ass out, which is kind of funny. But it gets into the whole Ukraine thing and this and that, and you know, and I was great. I did watch Donald Trump's speech at CPAC. He says, "Listen, if I was president, it'd be over in one day." And as much as that's, you know, Trump speaking, there's part of me that says, you know what, it might, you know, because listen, again, and people don't like to hear this, but there was no, everybody thought he was going to create World War III because he's crazy and all this shit. There was no fucking, if anything, quite the difference happened when old Shaky Bones and Blabbermouth Biden came in the picture, who, by the way, fell on the stairs again.
This is number 8. And this number 8, are we keeping count? Is this 8 or 10? I lost track.
He was talking about, oh, they opened my head, check if I had a brain. I mean, this guy is a fucking babbling fool. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. What's it gonna take? I mean, wouldn't it be funny if all of a sudden they gave him one of those, like, instead of walking up fucking Air Force One, they gave him one of those seats that old people use in the stairs, and they just going up the
like
fucking
you're not allowed to walk up the steps anymore.
Yeah. Or they turn the cameras off. They're like, okay, bye, I'm getting on the stairs now, everybody. What a fucking joke. All right. Here's another thing that's terrifying me right now, because I'm about to get on a plane on Friday to fly to Chicago, which, by the way, may be having a fucking snowstorm. Nothing worse than knowing you're going to be flying into a snowstorm for a gig, and icing planes and runways, slippery, all this shit going into my head. But have you guys ever experienced severe turbulence?
I mean, I've experienced turbulence. I think the most is like I got jolted out of my seat about 8 or 9 inches up in the air, and because I didn't have my seatbelt on, I just sat back down, and we hit a pocket, and I literally came out of my seat all the way. My ass was like parallel with the armrest.
Wow,
that's about the most I've ever experienced.
Jeez,
you have a seatbelt on? Did you have your seatbelt on, Andy?
Right. No, I did not. I'd gone to the bathroom. I came back. I sat down. And I was just sitting there. Didn't think about it. And then we hit that pocket, and I was like, "Woo!" And I mean, my head almost hit the top of the overhead thing.
Oh shit!
That's crazy.
I was like, "Damn!"
I couldn't imagine. I've never been on a plane. I'm afraid of heights too, so that'd probably be terrifying to me. I mean, I've hit a Greenville pothole, you know. But that's about it. No, I've never been on a plane. And
you never been on a plane yet, Chris?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to be sedated, like, you know what I mean? I'm gonna have to be sedated. What was? Go ahead with the story about the.
But well, by the way, I'd have you know, your idol, Eric Myers, who was very terrified of flying, would not like, he couldn't fly. So that hampered some of his touring ability, but he would have to drive everywhere because anxiety wise, he was terrified of flying. So at least you guys share that in common. But you know, there was actually Matthew McConaughey was on a flight with his wife Camilla, and they were on their way to a Lufthansa flight on their way to Germany, and severe turbulence. People got fucked up, and usually the people who get fucked up are obviously the flight attendants because they're walking around. Right. Or, you know, or how many times you've been on a flight, well, except for Chris, how many times you've been on a flight where, you know, these people just like walking around and meandering, you know. Yeah. Me, fuck that. I get in my seat unless I have to piss, and I hate it. Every time I go piss, I'm like, let me hurry up, because my luck, the turbulence will hit when I'm taking. If you mean to piss, if that happens when you're in the fucking bathroom, it's so small in there. I mean, you know,
it's like this little box here.
I'm still amazed. That's right. If you ever had to take a shit on a plane, it's almost like trying to take a shit in this box that we're in on this screen. Because I don't know how. Like I said, I'm wide, I'm thick, but I'm 5'8", 5'9". You know, I can't imagine a guy 6'3" having to take a shit in there and trying to wipe his ass without getting it all over the place. So they were talking about it, and there was another story. Ben, pull it up. But former White House official killed after a business jet hit turbulence.
I didn't know about this until you said something about the story. I was like, she got killed, but it was a private jet, so obviously it sounded like, from what I read, they weren't wearing their seatbelt like I wasn't. They were probably just hanging out. I mean, think about it. If you've ever been in a private jet, which I don't know if you ever have, you know, I'm not going to sit in my seatbelt and stay buckled in, you know, when I got a couch sitting right there and all.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to play racquetball and shit. It's a fucking private jet. You know, sit there, play some fucking tennis, a couple rounds of golf. Yeah, dude. Yeah,
but that's
listen.
sad, though.
There was a point in time years ago. I had three flights in a row that had really bad, like shit opening up, fucking like. And the worst part was like 2 hours of, blah, 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 blah. And I when I got off that plane, I was like the Pope. I kissed the fucking ground. I was like, and I didn't fly. I purposely didn't fly for almost 8 months to a year after that because I was just, there's no fucking way. And then now a buddy of mine who's like a hypnotherapist has basically taught me that whenever it gets like that, just picture you're on a bus on the road and all the bumbling and stuff is like that. It's just, you're on, you're not going to actually fall 30,000 feet. And my buddies who are all pilots have suggested to me it's impossible for turbulence to bring a plane down. So all I do is remember that shit. And I'm going to have to be remembering it this week when I get on a fucking plane to Chicago.
But yeah, that sucks about that lady that died because her kid and her husband were on the plane with her.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, and all the ways to go. You know what I mean?
That's just crazy.
I've never even heard of something like that. Honestly, I was like, wow, I didn't, that never crossed my mind.
It's just probably one of those freak things. She got jolted around and hit her head, from what I read, just right, just one of those weird fluke timing things.
Yeah.
It's horrible. All right, here's our segment, Did You Hear? These are stories from around the world and here in this country, and we don't know if you heard it or not. But our first story, Hershey's faces backlash over putting a trans woman on a candy bar. And
I saw that when it came out last week. Matter of fact, because my co-host on my podcast, Jody, is a big Reese's guy, and he was talking with Hershey's about doing some commercials or some things for them on TikTok and back and forth. And then he saw that. He's like, "Oop, I'm out."
Yeah. I mean, I think, I get the understanding that if a guy transitions to be a woman and they want to be considered a woman, God bless. But,
yes,
the issue is there is like, I'll be respectful, if I could, 99% of the time you could tell it's a guy, right? I mean, except for the girl, the chick from Arizona who won Miss America for you like last year. It was fucking beautiful. I mean, oh my God, the last time I was fooled like that was when I was in South Beach on ecstasy, but we won't discuss that. But, it was a fucking moment, it was a trial moment. Is that a dick? So, and you're so high on ecstasy, you're like, no, I can't. I won't do it. But that's another fucking story. But you know what I mean? There's a very small fraction of the population. So, but listen, if somebody say I'm not gonna be an asshole and go, dude, I'm not gonna be a schmuck. Yeah. But the issue that most people have is don't tell me, like, you can't force people how to speak. That's the big issue. You can't tell somebody you have to use these words when you talk to me. Just as much as I can't tell people to call me King Dougie. I can't, you know what I mean? It's unrealistic. It's really unrealistic to expect other people to handle things the way you want them to, right? I mean, can we agree? Yep. Now, Hershey's, I'm on a diet, so it's easy to walk away from Hershey's, but I love a Hershey's almond, with Hershey's chocolate bar with almonds. Oh, fucking refrigerated. Reese's cup refrigerated. Yep. I mean,
that's not a bad choice.
Yeah,
and I tell people anything's got to be refrigerated. Oreos, double stuff in the fridge. Oh, freezer. Right. Oh my God, dude. But it's kind of like people are saying this kind of like we did another story to talk about. Well, we're coming up to it. Is like the woman in sports. Is that a woman? Well, I guess it's a way of making the transgender community recognize that way. But I don't know if I was still fat and wanted to be fat. I don't know if I would walk away from Hershey's because of this.
I think women should have the choice in women's sports to be able to make this determination. But at the same time, let's say the guy, the person had their ding dong cut off and the whole ding operation dong. And everything and whatever. I don't know how clean or dirty we can be on here, so I forget.
Ding dong.
But and they do the whole operation and on hormones. It's like, okay, well, can they still compete in women's sport at that point when they become a full-fledged woman? But then there's also the argument, well, they're biologically male by design with more muscle mass by design, natural by design than women. So they still will have an advantage. I don't agree with that. I think it should just be purely 100% men and purely 100% women, the way you were born genetically, because that's how basically the rules in most sports, and especially women's sports, are designed around, right?
Right.
You know, is the abilities, physically ability, and we know women have different physical abilities than men. So you get into this really weird gray area. But just because you put on a wig and makeup, no, you should not be allowed to compete in women's sports as a man.
Yeah. I mean, I think with like the swimmer that came out, a year or two ago, I mean, obviously all he did was take some hormones. He still got his cock and balls,
Right.
I mean, he looks like a dude with long hair. He looks like somebody who was in a band in the 80s, in glam rock. But, I think that it should be, if it's track and field, that's a big thing. They keep showing these high school athletes as these two black kids that transition that are just tearing up the track and field of amateur sports. And it's just not fair to a woman. Now, if this person has transitioned and went through the whole thing, and but this was the case of the U.S. powerlifting now must allow male athletes to compete against females in a Minnesota court, and people are what was a woman spokesman for ESPN came out against this, which is interesting. And I admire the people that can come out against when the majority of people are just trying to go with the flow and they don't want to get anybody pissed off. I really celebrate the people that stand up in the drift and say that I don't agree. You know what I mean? I just don't agree.
I don't agree. Well, I'm an ex-powerlifter. I powerlifted professionally and competitively for 4.5 years with the WMPF, NASA, and several other organizations. And I have an issue because I know powerlifting, and powerlifting is very depends on what segments you're in. If you're either in all natural, which I was, and most of them are natural, they test you and all that stuff. But this goes back to what kind of my base is. It's like, men inheritedly, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of strong women out there. If you've ever been around some of them strong powerlifting women, holy crap, some of them can bench and squat more than a dude. So don't get it twisted. Yeah. I still think it should be separated. And, in that instance, especially powerlifting, in my opinion, because even still, there's guys that can lift a lot more than women, and some women can't even get up to that level naturally. Okay, naturally. Right. And I'm not talking on the steroid circuit. I'm talking on the natural circuit that will never be able to probably squat, which I did. I squatted 675, my strongest below parallel in a competition. I don't know too many women naturally that can do that. There may be some out there that can, but I'm not saying I can do it because I'm a man. But I have seen men be able to do stuff women can't, strength-wise, because we're both two different species designed two different ways. On a natural aspect.
I think a good point is that when it comes to powerlifting, the male density of the bones, et cetera, add to the strength and the durability of powerlifting, I'd say. But like, for example, would I have an issue if it was golfing? If a guy, transgender woman, was now golfing. Well, that may not be as much, you know what I mean? Because there's a little more finesse involved.
Let me tell you, I'll give you anything to tee off from the ladies' tee. I need that extra 60 yards. I need that extra 60 yards. I'm just telling you.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? But listen, there's so much growth in the transgender community. We're only maybe a decade or two away where they should have their own, like you're saying, class,
right.
Instead of being a woman or male. Exactly. Like, let's just have transgender, You're right. I mean, compete against your own time.
I thought they had that in that article, actually, that there's some people have started making that separate category for transgender and I guess non-binary. I guess that would be the correct term.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, look, people, if you want to compete in it, compete in it. You know what I mean? This is a class, like non-binary. It's non-male, non-female. And if that's the case, then males should be able to compete. In other words, just an open class, right? Like just like they're talking about
an open weight fight league, any weight, yeah.
Man and women can fight, whatever. You can do whatever as long as you're this weight, under this weight, you can fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Why not? You know what I mean. And then now you have not only fairness because everybody knows what they're getting into, right? And there may be women. There may be women that say, "Fuck it, I'm going to beat the pants out of fucking Andy because he's only squatting 675." That pussy. I'm going to go after him.
Bring it on.
Fucking...
I can. Hey, they probably can. They probably can.
Well, that's it, because that would be amazing, right? Like, to me, if a transgender woman, right, somebody who's a man that's now a woman, beats a man in a squat contest, God bless. I mean, fucking hell, congratulations. You have reached the pinnacle of becoming a real man. You beat the fuck out of a man. You know what I mean? So why not? All right. Moving on. Elon Musk says that AI robots will eventually outnumber people. It's not even clear what an economy means at that point. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't we not think that? And listen, there's a lot of people that we should just eliminate to make room for some of these robots. I mean, let's face it. I mean, everybody should be able to put in a list of 5 people they just completely despise, and they add no value to America or humanity in any way. Every person on earth should go, hey, give us 5 people that are just complete pieces of shit, and we're going to replace them with a robot.
A robot. That's an interesting spin on it. I mean, but no, I agree. I mean, yeah, of course that's going to happen. I mean, we know that's coming. That's coming down. Now, will we see it in our generation? I don't know. But yeah. I mean,
look at the advancement in sex robots. You remember back 20 years ago, if you wanted to fuck a doll, you had to blow her up and, look like a fucking balloon with her mouth open. Nowadays, you look at me like, God damn, maybe I will fucking leave my wife and buy that one. Doesn't, my buddy used to have an old joke. He used to say, you can get one of those sex robots and you pay an extra 10 grand for one that talks. He's like, fuck that. I pay 10 grand for one that didn't talk. Exactly. You know what I mean? Jason, good joke, buddy. But listen, when they had the rules come out about minimum wage, like, oh, we got to pay these fast food workers minimum wage, and look how quickly McDonald's and everybody started automating their fucking burger flipping processes.
Dude, I stopped at a McDonald's on the road about a month ago, and I haven't gone to a McDonald's in forever. I had to use the bathroom so bad. It was late at night and it was open, so I cruised in there. And I just figured, I was like, I'll grab a Coke or some fries, something for using the bathroom. That's just kind of the way I am. So I went over and I stood there and I saw some people in the back and I was like, can I order something? Oh, everything's automated. There's only 2 of us. So you had to go to that tablet and order all your stuff yourself and do it all yourself. And I was like, no, but okay. And they're like, it's just us 3. And so I said, so you can't run the race. Like, nope, we're not allowed to after a certain point. I'm like, oh, okay. And the drive-through is that way now too. So now they want you to do the app, and then you pull up what's your order number, then you pull around and they hand it to you. So they're down to like 2 or 3 employees in McDonald's now.
It's weird. It's still McDonald's. That's what I don't understand. It's like, come on.
Yeah, just have some poor person out there shelving and making the damn food. Nothing worse than when I go into a fast food restaurant and I'll walk up and let's say I'm the person taking the order. They're like, may I help you? Like, well, why don't you fucking look at me first so we make sure we don't screw up my order, dummy. Which by the way, because of this diet I'm on, no more fast food. I miss Arby's. Arby's, I miss you. Why can't Arby's like hire a transgender woman to be there? We have the meats. Well, not really anymore. Really. You know what I mean? That'd be funny. Transgender. We have the meats. Well, I used to. That would keep me from going to McDonald's. Well, but I can't eat there anymore. I've said this back when Summer of Love in 2020, but Walmart set to close all stores in Portland amid record-breaking retail theft. How things working out for you, Portland? Yeah. How you guys like that free living? How's that going for you? It's a fucking ghost town, Portland.
I'm surprised this hadn't happened sooner. It's surprised.
I used to work at Walmart. This is no surprise. Let me tell you one story. When I worked at Walmart, and I was like 22. I'm like, how old am I now? 38. That's how bad I don't know offhand. When I worked there, they still had a tube TV somewhere in that store, and these guys went and got the TV, opened the box. Right? They take the TV out. Take the box to the meat department and load that bad boy full of steak. So probably hundreds of dollars worth of steak. And it's Walmart steak, so it's still not a good deal. But anyway, so they wheel this steak TV to the front, and they, they're not going to pick up a TV. They scan their TV, and then this lady walks by and she goes, "Hey, your TV's bleeding." Blood was pouring out of the bottom of this television. That's how they got busted. So I'm not surprised.
That must have been a cheap ass fucking TV to where the TV costs less than the fucking meat.
Yeah. I mean, it was like the one tube TV in the corner that I didn't even know they had. Like, flat screens have been a thing.
That's fucking funny. Your TV's bleeding, and all of a sudden the fucking Christians, oh my God, it's a sign of Christ. TV's bleeding. Right. Holy shit, the man, he's coming back. We're saved. Oh, fuck.
But it's no surprise, man, with all these, the state saying, hey, people can walk out with X amount and don't stop them, let them. I'm like, that all comes back to somebody, and us, the consumers, and the bottom line. And they're just going to, I'm surprised they haven't thought to shut down the stores faster.
More and more stores are leaving places like Seattle. Seattle's another place. I had friends that were like, when this was all going down, I'm like, you guys, I remember there was something that happened on the news. I go, hey, do you hear that? And they're like, what is it? I'm like, it's the sound of 1,000 for sale signs going up in Seattle. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, fucking guess what? It's falling apart. There's Harvey's Comedy Club used to be in Portland, closed. Yep. I mean, I don't know who the fuck would want to do stand up, unless you're a woke ass fucking comic. There's no way you can
I've
say
had buddies
anything.
Leave there and go to New York that left Portland and went to New York. They're like, I got to get out of here. They're like, I gotta go.
It's a shit town. And even in California, Newsom now said he's not going to Walgreens. They're not going to deal with Walgreens because they wouldn't sell the abortion pill. So I mean, Newsom's a fucking idiot. I mean, you're gonna get rid of, like, can you imagine living in California as tough as it is now with the earthquakes, the fires, the fucking homeless, all this fucking the expenses of living there, and now you can't even go to a Walgreens, soon CVS. You're going to limit, like, to California. We're a decade or two away of California just becoming a ghost town too. And listen, everybody's leaving these fucking cities. I mean, it's just everybody.
California's
South
here in
Carolina. Yeah, I mean, look what happened in Atlanta with those people attacking that police station that's being built. I mean, did you see this shit this week?
That was
all these fucking hoople heads.
It was actually a headquarters area. It was for training. It was for police.
Yeah, they're building it.
Purpose. Yeah.
And these guys, they all got.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, we're letting this go on.
Listen, shoot to kill at this point. I mean, like I said, thin the herd. Anybody wants to be. There was a story I read today about there was like a 14-year-old kid punched a cop, just co-cocked the cop, the back of the head, and the cop punched him back. And there was somebody going, "How dare the cop punch him? Fuck you! I don't care if somebody's 14. You punch a cop, you deserve an ass beating." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you don't step on his neck. God forbid.
Right.
Speaking of stupid criminals, bamboozled carjackers end up empty-handed after trying to take a Houston man's car at gunpoint. Funny as shit. The guy, they come up to the guy, they ask for his car keys. The keys are in the before, where are they at? And meanwhile, one of the guys steals the bag and runs off with it. Well, the keys are in the bag, stupid.
Yeah. And their location, and all keys are now location related to the car. So he couldn't start the car.
Yeah. And then it was a great story because then the guy's chasing the guy who took the bag. The original criminal starts shooting at the guy that he's trying to steal the car from. The guy, his partner, hears gunfire, freaks out, drops the bag, thinks he's being shot at. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, that's the only good thing about these fucking criminals being so young and stupid. You know what I mean? This is we got a couple stories left, but this was interesting. Laughter at Russia's Lavrov says war launched against us. I mean, this is great when the world recognizes bullshit. Play the clip, Ben.
The war which we are trying to stop and which was launched against us using Ukraine.
Fuck you, asshole.
What a moron.
It influenced
what a moron.
The policy of Russia, including energy policy.
Cut it. So
blunt.
again, we're trying to stop this war we're trying to stop the war by sending more and more unwilling, fucking incapable Russian young men to die in Ukraine.
Well, they're running out of young people. They've hit a 50-year mark of less people having kids over the last 40, 50 years, and they're out of a deep well of kids and young adults to basically pull as if they were going to draft to put in to the army to keep fighting. They're basically at the bottom of the well.
Yeah. You keep hearing, here's the thing about this. You don't know what's true or not true and all the shit you hear. But, I mean, it's a big clusterfuck over there. And the big concern is whether China's going to go in and help with arms to Russia and give them certain weaponry. It's a proxy war. It's a testing ground. We're testing our weapons. And listen, if anything we've learned is Russia is not the fucking army we thought they were. At this point, NATO should just get it together and fucking go evade Russia and get it over with at this point. I mean, fuck Russia. I mean, I don't even like white Russian drinks. I don't even like Russian dressing.
Right.
Fuck Russia.
Right.
I mean, the only thing I like about Russia is Russian women. Some of the hottest women on earth, sexiest women. Oh my God, tall, lengthy, that fucking accent. So you want to fuck? Yes, I do. Oh my God. Our last story is a Florida woman calls for Sugar Daddy Mama Appreciation Day, and this can only happen in Florida. And you got to see this crash test. I mean, she goes to a zoning board meeting in Florida. It has nothing to do with trying to have certain days, but she wants a sugar daddy, sugar mama.
Look at those things. Are those like ZZs or XXs?
Look at her. Look at her.
Okay.
Test the
Her
mic,
voice
stupid.
is the worst.
State your name and
Her
address
voice
for
is
the
the worst. Wait till she starts.
And hold it there for a second. And look at the guy. Look at the guy. The guy's going, yeah, I'm fucking her. Yeah. I know you're all laughing at me for fucking her, but would you rather me be fucking Maud? You know what I mean? I could be fucking this train wreck, but I'm listen to this fucking
Perfect face.
Okay. I just want to say good evening, everybody. Everybody's looking absolutely fabulous. A little bit serious, but I am here as a concerned citizen and voter. You guys might not be aware, but Florida has the largest per capita population of sugar daddies in the U.S.
Hold it there for a second. But we also have the worst education system for bimbos who can't read their own fucking writing.
Oh, yeah. He probably wrote it for her.
Look at it. That's his face. He's like, I can't believe she can't fucking read what I wrote.
Oh, he used to be an attorney, or he used to be a CEO guy, and he wrote it for her and handed it to her. And she goes, okay, I'll just read what you type, babe.
I don't know about that. This guy used to own a fucking a trucking company, or he's a fucking taxi cab driver, saved all his money, sold his medallion before Uber, and now is banging this big fucking freak. All right, roll it. Roll it a little longer, because this is
Palm Beach and Boca lies the most concentrated populace of these aged benefactors. Sugar daddies, both gay and straight, and yes, even sugar mommies, are responsible for college educations, cars, homes, rents, jets, Birkins, and the occasional body enhancement. But not me, though. I'm all natural.
Yeah, all natural.
Supporting our local economy.
Yeah, cut it. All right, so all natural. Those titties are so big they show up on fucking Google Earth.
Jeez.
And that happens in Florida. These fucking women like that, these strippers and these prostitutes / strippers will go after these old men. And look at that guy. He does. And he's sitting there going, "Oh God, I hope my friends don't see this."
He's on that bleach you.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
He's
each
just
his
waiting.
own, but each his own. But what made him think, oh, we're going to go get a sugar daddy date? What sense does that make? Zero.
To me, it's obviously somebody's just trying to get clicks and likes and shit. But the guy, the funniest thing about this is this innocent bystander. Like, his facial expressions the whole time are almost like, this seemed like a good idea and we thought about it. You know what I mean? But the more she talks, the more I look like a complete fucking buffoon. you know,
Oh, dude.
and
Yeah, he was rolling hard on a hit of X and probably banging her, and he's like, yeah, and she brought up the idea, and she's just riding him. He's like, whatever you want, whatever.
yeah, whatever you want, baby.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Must
I mean, he
have
probably
been.
didn't hear anything. The titties were close. You know, he couldn't hear shit with his face between those titties. Anyway, so welcome back to Florida. All right, it's time to play Let's Associate, fellows. This is where I bring up a word or phrase, and then you guys can quickly share with me your first thought or story that comes to mind. We're going to start with Chris since he has cerebral palsy.
Okay.
We're going to start with him. The first word is persistence.
Persistence. Oh gosh, persistence. I have to use a lot of persistence. It's hard to get up steps. Comedy Zone has 4 flights of stairs. Show starts at 8. I got there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it took me a while to get there. A lot of persistence.
No joke on that. Andy?
No.
Yeah. Same word?
Persistence, Andy. Yeah, same word.
Persistence. Annoying. Can be annoying, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, persistence is one of those things that you can be annoying, but you can also be persistence. For me is like especially in like sales and in here in comedy, it's like you want to be just persistent enough to where you're in front of people, but not to where you're just annoying, like to bookers and to different places. You know, you just want to be, you want to kind of be there, but not be too much where you just get on their nerve, like, oh God, they're here again. It's like, you know, eye roll
exactly.
and stuff.
In the world of business, we used to consider it politely aggressive.
Right.
You start with this word, Andy. Cheaters.
Cunts.
All right, there you go.
Cheaters. No. Yes. Cheaters are not good at all. Matter of fact, speaking of cheaters, I just wrote my check to my ex-wife, the last one I'll have to ever write her.
Congratulations.
On child support and everything. So thank you. I wrote that today. We no longer will be giving that woman any more of my money ever.
That's fucking
and
great.
That cheater is now 100% paid in full and gone.
It's amazing that you're able to cut it off. You had a good attorney that this just didn't go into perpetuity. This is something you just there was a certain amount. There was a date you had to reach.
Yeah, it was a date. There were some fees from attorney fees and stuff. My son graduated this summer, so child support fell off, and there was just a little bit of money left over for a case that we were arguing a couple of years ago. Which I won.
And by the way, did you put anything in the memo? Being the last check, did you put anything in the memo section like last check, bitch? Shove this one up your ass.
I wanted to. I thought about it. But I took the high road and just basically just said, you know, basically put in the letter, you know, this is done. We have fulfilled, and you are now on your own in perpetuity, and we won't have any more contact. So I took the high road like Chris Rock, and I did it professional and then sent it out.
You'll
Chris,
talk about
cheaters.
it in your special. Cheaters. I've dated a lot of those. Made a lot of bad decisions. Girl I used to date was like, I figured she wanted to try new things like restaurants, just dicks. It was just dicks, you know? Dicks. So, her panties had a sign-in sheet. I don't know why I signed it. Cheaters.
All right, Chris, start with this one. Best friend.
Best friend. Oh man. I've got some interesting best friends. I got a best friend one time. We were walking to McDonald's, and it was in the afternoon, and you know, I can't walk fast. I got cerebral palsy, so I wait on the other dude, the dude with the good legs. I follow his lead, you know, and we're walking across the street, and he makes a bad call, and here comes a car that's not even paying attention, and luckily they start to slow down, but I got hit, so I go shooting off this way, and my friend, being the good best friend that he is, starts running like this, cutting the air in front of him to run faster to get to McDonald's, you know, like we talked about earlier, because I assume, you know, Chris might not be okay, but he needs like a quarter pounder, and he never came back. So fuck that guy.
God damn. Best friend.
Wow.
Okay, Andy.
What's that? I'm sorry, I got lost in the story.
Best friend. Best friend.
Best friend. Best friend. I've had a lot of best friends. I don't consider people. I hate the word best friend. I really do, because I mean I've got a lot of good friends and I've got a lot of close friends. Not a lot, but now it's down to like 5. I mean, first, it's like, oh, you're my best friend. I've never really liked that term, because it's like saying that you're better than this person or whatever. I really don't like the term, because I've got some friends that you would consider a best friend that are actually probably exceed a best friend level. So I'd rather just kind of not use that term.
Gotcha. So best friend for you is more of a label for a friend than it is for one person.
Yeah.
They're one of my best friends. Yeah. They're best friends. Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. One of my best friends and my comedy partner in the Ebony and Olive comedy team. We lost a great guy a week or so ago. My buddy, Chris Priester, the teacher, 51 years old, surprising fellow, died in his sleep. And great guy. And he was a best friend because we saw eye to eye on a lot of things. And I'm going to miss you, Unc. And you'll never forget your brother. All right. Andy, you start with this one. Crushing.
The term is it now used to be for me in golf. And now it's about comedy and crushing a joke or an audience or a set. I try not to use that word lightly. I don't throw it around a lot, but I do like to see when someone crushes, especially someone new in comedy. And I like watching guys crush an audience and crush a joke. It's really fun, to sit there and watch your buddies and fellow comedians like finally work a joke out to where it just crushes a room.
Got it. Chris?
Yeah, same thing. Comedy, it's crushing. Like it doesn't happen all the time. But when it happens and you know it happened, it's like the best feeling in the world. It's like, man, I crushed. Because like last week, I did a mic, and crush is not the word I would use. I would say not even lightly dent. And it was just like, oh, geez, somebody get me out of here, And but yeah, when you crush, it's great. That is for sure.
Yeah. And I would add to that, it's always better when somebody else says you crushed. It's never good,
100%.
even if you had.
You can't be like, I crushed.
Yeah.
I hate when people say I crushed. I'll be like, it just comes off weird or dirty, does it not?
I always say I did all right, and they're like, oh, you crushed, and I'm like, oh, thanks. I feel weird. Yeah, I'm very humble with that. I've never been that person.
Yeah, and nothing more disgusting when somebody's I crushed, and then you watch a video of me like that's fucking crushing.
You crush their enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. All right, our last words. Give it to Chris. Well-traveled.
That's something I'm not. I don't know nothing about nothing. Like me and you, we went and found a Buc-ee's. Holy crap! If you've never seen this magical place,
yeah,
one of my favorite places to stop.
I love Buc-ee's. God, I kind of want to tell that Buc-ee's joke. You want me to tell the Buc-ee's joke?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is a terrible joke. I said, I get PTSD from going to Buc-ee's because it reminds me of my ex-girlfriend. There's a buttload of places to pump full of a bunch of random dicks, and you can eat there for $8. Working on that one. But that's my Buc-ee's. That's a wonderful, wonderful place.
And that's
like
by the way,
when
we went there after the gig, when you and I and Jacob went there after our Fayetteville gig, that was the first time I was ever in a Buc-ee's myself, and I had that brisket sandwich, which was delicious.
It was amazing. Yeah, I would go to I'll go back there just to go to Buc-ee's. We don't have to go to do comedy. I could care less. It's Buc-ee's. It's great, wonderful place.
Andy, well-traveled.
Well-traveled. Like the chick in that last video, she's well-traveled, is she not?
Mileage.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if people were like automobiles and you get to see all the fucking mileage on them?
Miles.
Like, look on that lady. Oh.
Like how many owners, like you get to see how many owners, how many people banged her over the years.
Right.
It'd be like, you know what I mean?
She's refurbished.
If you went out with that woman now, that'd be like buying a 1987 fucking Corvette with fucking 300,000 miles on it. Yeah, the airbags are still keep you fucking in. Well, that's all we got time for here on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I want to thank Chris Wilson and Andy Gunnin for joining us here today, fellas. Andy, how can people find out more about you?
They can go to andygunnin.com on my website. All my shows are on there. You can see what I'm doing. I'm touring all over the Midwest. I got about 16, 17 shows coming up across the country, everywhere from Panama City, Florida to Louisiana to Ohio to Illinois. So just check it out. Follow me, and you can go in there and get one of these Sugar Hooker shirts
There you go.
as well in my store.
Chris?
Yeah, just go to chriswilsoncomedy.com. All my socials at Chris Wilson Comedy. You can catch me at any Walmart or Waffle House around the upstate. I'm going to do a tour there. So thanks for having me.
Great having you, buddy, and keep up the great work.
Thank
As for me, this weekend, I'm going to be at CG's Comedy Club in Bolingbrook, Illinois, Friday and Saturday night shows. Please come out and say you're here to see me, everybody. And that'll be great. We appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Wake Up Late with Dougie Show. Need you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dougie Almeida. Appreciate that. That is building up nicely. And aside from that, everybody, God bless. Treat everybody as if they are your friend and best friend. And crush it when you can. Don't be a cheater, and be persistent when it comes to the good things in life. God bless. Take care, and we'll see you next time here at the same spot.